For years, fans counted every single day. They celebrated every milestone. They held on to every promise, and they imagined over and over again what it would finally feel like when all seven stood together again. That moment is here. And somehow, it's even more complicated than anyone expected. For more than a decade, BTS did something the music industry said was impossible. 7 young artists from South Korea didn't just break into the global mainstream, they redefined it. They sold out stadiums on every continent. They broke streaming records that had stood for years. They stood before the United Nations and delivered a message that moved millions. They built ARMY, one of the most passionate, most organized, most devoted fan communities the modern world has ever seen. They weren't just a K-pop group anymore. They were a cultural force. And then, everything went quiet. Not because the fans walked away, not because the music stopped mattering, but because reality, the kind that doesn't care about records or legacies or devoted fan bases, eventually caught up with even the biggest group on Earth: military service. In South Korea, it's not optional. It's not negotiable. And for BTS, it meant something the fandom had been quietly dreading for years. One by one, the members stepped away from group activities. And with every enlistment announcement, fans around the world felt the same impossible mix of emotions all at once: pride, sadness, hope, and a deep, aching uncertainty about what would come next. For years, ARMY lived inside a strange kind of waiting room, waiting for updates, waiting for photos, waiting for the small moments: a social media post, a behind-the-scenes glimpse, a letter that reminded them the members were still there, still growing, still dreaming, still coming back. And now, in 2026, they have. At least, that's what everyone thought. Because what unfolded during BTS FESTA 2026 didn't just give fans the reunion they had waited for. It revealed something much larger. Something that raises questions about legacy, identity, and what it truly means to come back after the world has moved on without you. And this is where the story gets genuinely fascinating. Chapter 1. The World Reacts. When BTS announced the full FESTA schedule, the internet didn't just respond, it erupted. Within minutes, hashtags were trending across a dozen countries simultaneously. Fan forums that had spent months in quiet anticipation suddenly burst back to life. Timelines flooded with countdown clocks, throwback videos, fan art, and theories. People who had never met each other, separated by oceans and languages and time zones, were screaming the same words into their screens at the same moment. They're back. And one announcement, above everything else, hit different. Run BTS. For those who don't know, Run BTS was never simply a variety show. It was a window, a weekly glimpse into the unguarded, unscripted, genuinely hilarious chaos that happened when 7 people who genuinely loved each other were put together with no agenda except to have fun. During the military years, that was the thing fans missed most. Not just the music, not just the performances, but the accidental moments, the inside jokes, the way one member's laughter would set off a chain reaction across the whole group. The feeling that you were watching real friendship in real time. When Run BTS Return was confirmed for FESTA 2026, it wasn't just nostalgia people were chasing. It was proof. Proof that the chemistry was still there. Proof that the friendship had survived distance and time and change. Proof that whatever BTS was, at its core, underneath the records and the awards and the cultural weight, was still intact. But here's where something unexpected started to happen. While the celebrations were loud and the excitement was real, a quieter conversation was beginning to spread. Slowly at first, mostly in the corners of fan forums and comment sections, but spreading nonetheless. A question nobody wanted to ask out loud. What if coming back is harder than anyone is prepared for? Stay with me, because the answer reveals something about BTS and about success itself that almost nobody is talking about. Chapter 2: The Weight of Return. Here's the truth that reunions don't advertise. Coming back is not the same as continuing. The BTS that stands together in 2026 is not the same group that paused group activities years ago. Every single member has changed, deeply, genuinely, in ways that can't be undone, and probably shouldn't be. During the military period, solo careers didn't just fill the silence. They thrived. Members explored sounds and concepts that BTS as a group had never touched. They built individual fan relationships. They made creative decisions entirely on their own terms. They discovered new things about themselves as artists that simply couldn't have emerged from inside the group dynamic. That kind of growth is irreversible. And here's why that matters. When 7 people each grow in different directions for years, each finding their own voice, their own audience, their own creative identity, coming back together is not a simple equation. It's not subtraction. It's not even addition. It's something messier and more human than that. It's negotiation. Who are we now, together, when we've each become something different apart? That's the question sitting quietly beneath every celebration, behind every trending hashtag, underneath every sold-out ticket and every record-breaking stream. And it's a question BTS has never had to answer quite like this before. History gives us context here, and it isn't always comforting. Some of the greatest groups of all time have stumbled during re-entry, not because the talent disappeared, not because the love wasn't real, but because the world they left wasn't the world they returned to, and neither were they. Expectations are a particular kind of pressure. Fans who waited years don't want evolution. They want restoration. They want the exact feeling they remember, the specific magic of a specific era, somehow perfectly preserved and handed back to them in 2026. And that's an almost impossible thing to deliver. Every new song will be compared to a legendary catalog. Every live performance will be measured against sold-out stadium moments that have been replayed and mythologized for years. Every creative choice will be dissected by millions of people who genuinely, sincerely feel that they have a personal stake in the outcome. That is not a normal pressure. That is something only a handful of artists in the entire history of recorded music have ever had to carry. And what BTS does with it next will shape their legacy for decades. But before we get to that, something happened during FESTA 2026 that nobody predicted. Something that silenced a lot of the doubt, at least for a moment. And it reminded the entire world exactly why they fell in love with BTS in the first place. Chapter 3: What FESTA actually revealed. There's a specific kind of magic that only exists between people who have genuinely been through something together. You can't manufacture it. You can't rehearse it. You can't generate it with a production budget or a strategic rollout plan. You either have it or you don't. And when BTS appeared together during FESTA 2026, in the moments that mattered, in the unguarded spaces between the planned content, they had it. The dynamic that millions of fans had spent years missing was still there. Not frozen in amber, not exactly the same as before, but present, real, evolved in the way that real things evolve when they're given time and space and genuine experience. The laughter hit different. The way they talked about each other hit different. Because now there was something underneath it, a layer of depth that comes only from people who chose to come back to each other after everything. And in that, Festa 2026 delivered something more valuable than any comeback single or press conference ever could. It delivered evidence. Evidence that the foundation was solid, that the years apart had added dimension without subtracting connection, that whatever BTS is going to build next, they are building it together, not as a collection of solo artists temporarily reunited, but as 7 people who genuinely still want to be in the room with each other. That's rarer than it sounds. In an industry built on manufactured moments and strategic narratives, genuine human connection is the thing no algorithm can replicate. It's the reason ARMY has always been more than a fan base. It's the reason BTS has always been more than a group. And Festa 2026 proved it's still there. But, and this is important, proving the foundation is solid is just the beginning. The harder work starts now. Here's what Festa 2026 actually means. Stripped of all the noise, it means BTS is genuinely, fully back in the conversation. Not as a nostalgic act, not as a legacy group coasting on memory, but as 7 people at the height of their individual powers choosing to come back together and build something new. That choice is extraordinary because they didn't have to. Solo success was real. Individual paths were open. The easier road existed. And they looked at it and they chose this instead. They chose each other. And for ARMY, the fans who waited through every announcement, every enlistment, every quiet stretch of uncertainty, that choice means everything. Because it confirms what they always believed, that BTS is not a moment, not a trend, not a product of perfect timing and favorable algorithms. BTS is something that was built to last. The questions about pressure, expectation, and the weight of return are real. They're not going away. And navigating them successfully will require every bit of the creativity, resilience, and genuine human connection that made BTS who they are. But if Festa 2026 proved anything, it's that the tools are still there. The world waited. BTS came back. And somehow, against all the odds, against all the pressure, against everything the industry says should diminish magic over time, the magic is still here. What happens next is going to be one of the most important chapters in modern music history. And we get to watch it unfold in real time. So I want to hear from you. After everything BTS has been through, do you think Festa 2026 is the beginning of their greatest chapter yet? Or do you think the pressure of expectations is their biggest challenge? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video meant something to you, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the story of BTS in 2026 is only getting started. And we'll be right here for every chapter.